Hello, everybody. The thing I want. This is about the difference between Judge Napolitano's judging freedom with subject treatments and those of the national and intercities and interstates news locations. Also, the difference of that in public television is also used, and they've been reporting on fake phone transcripts and on a mass scale originally and still the differences between the Republicans, Democrats, the acceptors, the agencies, those all natures of differences that are used criminally for an influence, roles with predicate acts with facts methods only capable of being replaced. It was James Madison's and our founders' communications and uses of his plan. And so we have a state of Americans that are not allowing honesty regarding the extortion of George Washington, which nature gives us means to discern the difference between things that are published that are, nonsense, which individually grouped in together the defenses of the names as the campuses, all ages and natures of them, including medical and fire campuses. The campuses of the republic for which we stand is still criminally foreign influence. And that is still worse than obfuscated. Others pretended simultaneously because roles with the extortion, torture, and slavery method is still standing. And so we're going to address this as many Americans have wanted to. And we want to use as evidence those things that are clear as day to many. We know the suburbs were designed. There are a design of houses in the suburbs that were built before America's founders were born. And they were born with no free speech. And people that are only allowed to use truths for lies, to pretend they had free speech by pretending just because they put it in the Declaration of Independence. The breaching method was measuring and maintaining. In other words, it knew that everyone was going to break out of what it was locked in, where everyone was hurting each other. Per a breaching method that no one wanted collusions with, except for everyone grew up since semi-ancient times. Everything around them, all formal uses of the names of the sciences, of the names of people, A through Z, through systems, tactical, then the one that revealed the republic for which we stand. Before it became criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought and no longer capable of affording discern how pantheism, for example, was more probably about the one identity of forever nature that we could observe is grouped, has our perception demonstrated to with how it has grouped 5 ways, distinctly from how it has grouped 3 ways time. So there is the extent of the past. There are extent of realities we know about the past that were true always. There is an extent of group realities we know that are true always, right now, active. There's an extent of the future that is not here yet, but we know of it now, which is one of the main things that the season's about. Everything's about its identity in relation to itself, and the value of that as one volume that is not unlike any other ones. In fact, but that is also while it is every other one, but anyway. While not, but anyway. Like for example, the other species have 2 eyes like us. They are not us, but they are anyway. Because there is a shared identity of value progression. There is its shared identity of relationship to itself. And there is only increasing value of that, which is hyper additionally distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously with how it is not hyper-additional, how this is what it is. I was watching a Neil deGrasse Tyson YouTube short, and he was praising Albert Einstein for making a symbol trying to prove if this universes were expanding or contracting. And nature shows us that it is both at the same time. And nature shows us that the identity of each of the sciences individually grouped together It is simultaneously greater than, more finite than, and with active relativity to itself. Even if anything's made up, it has this volume science that has why we are a one species body, distinct from other species bodies, and that species body is made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies. All group differences have this hyper difference generating them to an extent that we could discern. Just to an extent we could discern at countries A through Z. In defenses of those names, A through Z. That came with screening and breaching method. Before America's founders were born, that it was entrenched. Rolls with slavery, for example, sickly distinctly north and south, and rolls with it. Everyone was the proverbial Uncle Tom. See, we have treatments about what witch trials are about and what was positive or negative about Harriet Beecher Stonehouse and the Mark Twain house. Rolls with that have rolls with the World Trade Center attack. Rolls with that have rolls with exploitation of where and how and why. Somewhere on YouTube I saw in a video, there were Chinese monks and with Native Americans, and see president / chief too, by the way. But they who were helping while everything was unfolding there. But before everything unfolded there, that breaching method had already sustained all kinds of sick things and all natures of record keeping as collusions with difference rackets. Because now it's another side. Oh, it says the side says this. In other words, if we examine the difference between all sides of criminal and civil cases, and the courts themselves and the news at the same time are planting and self-valuing the same sequence shifts. The differences between the news subject treatments and Judge Napolitano's and his guest treatments has been used by a breaching method that forgiveness is about. Because these are very intellectual people, and no one wants to be a part of this evil. But you guys came through campuses A through Z in the differences of them. Self-value rolls with the use / estimate by the breaching method, or that body was sensed, including if it was a majority of people, including if it was everyone. And this breaching method effectively knew any grouping of countries that would come out of this, no matter how, quote, powerful they could be, they would not be able to overcome its complete possession / hyper-possession over fact, treatment, nature, quality, aspect / S in nature / S as criminal insidiousness natures like wrongdoers, people who apart with predicate acts with facts methods. So one of the things that is true always that slavery was about a human fact, treatment, nature, predicate acts with facts delivery system method. I'm not a lawyer, but we have recorded, we have hyper evidential, so to speak, means to discern that and how all sides of criminal and civil cases and the courts and the differences of the police forms, the mayors of the times and whatever the equivalents, etc. Hundreds of nations shared, not speaking about things like crimes, no, leaving out predicate acts with facts, leaving out their delusions clearer than day, leaving out their roles with all kinds of natures of organized crime relative to this, and roles with those same crime bodies. See, way worse than what was blamed. They're using truths for lies to pretend that they're trying to count their things like roles with money and things like that for the criminal enterprises as they have them grouped. Nature itself and our founders, and the Constitution unabridged, it communicates, and how we have rights that are too numerous to list. It demonstrates that the people they have been using questions to measure and maintain a quality of fact, treatment, nature response to its questions, as all identities are law formal. They can't defend that without self-valuing roles, using their questions to measure and maintain collusions and as confessions. When kids go to court in New York City, they're making confessions without even realizing it to those kids because of the relativity of how people A through Z came through campuses. And the difference of that is used. Other communicated for James Madison and our founders. How are you, Kim? James Madison and our founders made a plan because slavery against everyone, torture against everyone, and extortion against everyone was entrenched in the northern colonies and the southern colonies, more than 13. And so it was bad and had been sustained against them. The difference between the colonists and the Native Americans and the difference between the tribes of the Native Americans. That was also is also consciously used by this breaching method. Again, that employed black and white, the same colors that nature communicates. We have the same color eyes at the same time, and those colors are black and white. At the same time, we have different color eyes, and there are exceptions. And see, nature communicates with us tactical ulterior from where we have the sciences, names used, and then further the roles with names like that. That's one of the reasons it's important to understand. One of the things, forgiveness too, but in other words, to understand that breaching method which had been entrenched, a predicate acts with facts delivery system method, is what everyone in the cartoon value nature system of Little Rap Guy and French cartoons are forced to call it. I can't. In other words, the whole cartoon value nature system, just like countries A through Z, suits and ties, counters, and exceptions, is criminally foreign influence. It is extorted. It's tortured, extorted, in fact, human nature enslaved. In other words. So all sides of criminal and civil cases, this breaching method knew that it could have defenses of what couldn't be defended and then afford not to self-value rules with its breaching method with uses of those theaters of criminal insidiousness and as rules with use/s of differences, like the difference between Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, or Judging Freedom, the YouTube channel of Judge Napolitano. And meanwhile, if you paid attention to the subjects in Judge Napolitano's Judging Freedom, really why and how. So in other words, the species body holds our bodies individually forced to be self-valued, syntactically, independent, one body, species, and where it communicates with us relative to all kinds of things, revelation, understanding, and simultaneously wants us to be individual bodies of this independent and unity and independence simultaneously. It wants us to discern itself. We can discern itself because we have the same color eyes and different color eyes at the same time. And we didn't, and other people didn't invent that. The other species bodies didn't invent that. In fact, they have the same quality aspect of nature, distinct, but also non-distinct. And that further shows there's an identity of hyperrelativity. We have black pupils, whites of eyes. We have the same color eyes, different color eyes at the same time. Therefore, there is relativity. No theory here. Math only measures each of the sciences in the road to them. This breaching method uses self-value rules, communicating other than nature communicates, is practical and capable of being discerned at each age of fact, treating nature. And it's using the defenses of that, which are styles that are using words like kids or adults. See, that difference too is used. They have readings of statutes that give benefit of the doubt at the last second, though, to them. That they're reading it out here, planting evidences. The breaching method showed them how to read the laws. The breaching method showed them how to be our founders. Sophistication, only sophistication has criminal insidiousness nature, at A through Z. And that causes more negative value nature progressions, acts of nature. And that's also used to screen itself because it knew that. So it maintains that too. everyone blaming other things, others, ourselves, and their natures of industry and everyone around everyone for other reasons. Also, by the same locked reason, needing to keep a quality of fact-sheeping nature as criminal insidiousness, getting involved with other people's conversations dishonestly, and where and how murders intercities, unconnected murders have connections. The same people who are covering up life progressions because of their roles of predicate acts with facts into databases. There are more people, and then they're using their differences with the military too, foreign and domestic military. The people just use their thing. They get involved with other people's conversation. Then when they argue with me, now I'm going to talk about the Kuwaiti general you involved on and off Central Connecticut State University, German military, and KKK themed police forums, on off Hartford Hospital with KKK black theme, Latino theme, etc. Involved criminally foreign, Italian, their differences, men, women. They're putting fake conversations with people, foreign and domestic, and who is responsible for that. The differences are used too. All along Route 175 from Old Weathersfield to Central Connecticut State University, there are intelligence families and conjunctions to it. People a little bit off it in order to. The difference is used. Relative to these are people roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases and all sides of depositions. And the difference of that is used too. On off the state judicial branch offices, on off the state corrections offices. These are also part of the answers to why and to how they could pretend that anyone spoke for the law or any subject legitimately, leaving out how we have black people's rights of life. Because this is being projected by nature's identity itself, the identity of hyperrelativity. We also have delusions with the people who count the religions and the religions themselves. And that's why together they're keeping obfuscated. They're using their differences too, their self-value uses of themselves to keep self-value. They're right, even with the reception of those books, because the beginning of the Old Testament and the beginning of the Quran, they both come with parts that dictate that the individual, all they have to do is be honest if they're going to call the identity the hyper simultaneous, Allah or not. The rest of the book, they're obligated, if they don't believe in it, they're not even supposed to pray in a mosque or pray it all they have to do is be honest about that. There's one identity of hyper-relativity tied to all things. Who denies it is going to have inherent to, active to, and progressive nature itself, demonstrations that their logic is flawed. But we have all natures of, we have this preaching method showed criminally foreign how to read statutes and precedents and exceptions, and a special difference, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. How to blame the real causes. They already invested people and showed them how it's recorded that we could discern. All formal identities of law, private ones, the difference in that. Also, again, the two, their family members, the difference of that. At the same time with the courts. In the Ninth Circuit Court, too. In the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center in that context. In other spots next to it also of the World Trade Center. Names also on off the World Trade Center have predicate acts with facts rolls with it, leading up to years before and since, and next to the homes of the victims on all sides of their house. In fact, like with increasingly, there's an Eric Oliveri, who I never tried to contact. He sought me out to make confessions. He's one of the ones who've been planting evidences with on off the state judicial branch offices in conjunctions to it, and corners of streets in Weathersfield and Rocky Hill, Elm Street. He has roles of retired police chiefs and judges and foreign and domestic, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people involved with predicate acts with identity theft, fraud, slanders on and off campuses connected. They're putting fake things in databases at campuses, and this could have been recovered. This could have been realized. There are proofs that Uvalde, Texas, and that Sandy Hook has roles with F.B.I. to an extent already recorded involved on off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, on off the state of Connecticut corrections offices, with people involved with a Robert Rodriguez, a Mike Roberts, people involved with hospitals in California, involved with like medical databases. They're putting fake conversations with people, and they've been collusions through administrations with criminally foreign influence uses of the identities of the law. The same people pretending to be against people stealing at the streets of California, for example. They have rules of predicate acts with fax methods way worse than were done to those people before they started stealing there. For example, as and these they will not help, and because they're trying to pretend it's personal. They lie about the motivations of people the way the Constitution tells them not to. But see, everyone inherited roles with this, with those predicate acts with facts self-valued against the youngest kids. The youngest kids have means to discern and to explain all the proofs. Like if you're, if the houses were born before they were built before our founders were born. They weren't even cars. And slavery was entrenched north and south. The reason that wasn't made clear is because the roles were forced because they were slave roles too. Everyone was supposed to hurt each other because now they're blaming others for things that they did to them, but it wasn't really their fault, except for that was all they were allowed to do. That were, in other words, and they're making things up too on a mass scale to keep things blamed on each other and to keep styles. This has a better than perfect, increasingly, possession over all formal identities of conviction nature. And as collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, they all share, like they share. There's grouped like quality aspects, like pretending they care about voting. They don't care about voting. They don't care even when they care. Oh, it's about jobs creation. The jobs are criminally foreign influence. You can't address what our history was and what our founders communicated if you don't explain how they had entrenched roles with natures of industry. The difference of that being guilty, or the three branches of government, or the overt criminal enterprises, or the private one, or all the chaos tied to countries A through Z share on and off campuses here or there. And it's not either of their fault, but it's causing negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. That they've only known how to blame other things others as collusion /S. Anything, all natures of crimes in the courts themselves had collusions with the crime scenes in the World Trade Center attack. WFSB picked conversations with me and about the World Trade Center attack. And they have rules with sequence shifts and with the intelligence next to them and the same names next to Fox Connecticut News and the same names next to WTNH, which is F.B.I. involved with wire crime acts and methods with Wethersfield Police, State Police. Whiting Forensics is increasingly involved with people interstates, involved with the state police forms and FBI. Their roles with people with the name Violet. They have prosecutors and judges with the name Brian Silver. They have judges named Killian and Smith speaking fake things into records, sexual and data and digital crimes with kids, with changing and faking conversations, and with Facebook roles with them, which actually recorded. Further, there are people with the name Leahy that have been forging other doctors' names. There's a Dr. Aziz who's one speaking things fake into records, sequence shifts, and delusions with a Judge Killian, who has collusions with their patients and criminals on my street, involved with untimely deaths with them and uses of Harvard Hospital to cover that up, uses of their positions and their family members, including brought up in the difference between news involved with Judge Killian and other conversations like with interviews of him on Facebook. I don't know if I saw it on YouTube or where I saw it, but there's a Judge Killian who's one of the ones further involved with the principal upskirt nature. And Twitter has F.B.I. with more upskirt pictures and the people involved with use /S of the word of the name Ian. And these are also people involved with the medical corruption interstates, California, and in other words, a lot of people tied to Joseph Dennis a Joe Aiello and a John Maiano have roles with a whole bunch of different countries with their educators involved with differences, rackets, identity theft, fraud, slanders. They plant. In other words, they've been using the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. All along routes 3 and route and the Burlington Turnpike before the heart of Hartford. Also, and people with the Britain Superior Court and Hartford Hospital people brought up the name Chet Casper, who's involved with some people with the doctors with drugs and with some untimely deaths, like brought up and then confirmed to me on Facebook. And I didn't respond to him in person. They bring people from other areas, and through since I was a kid, there were ties between those kids, and they make it look like they know me and that I'm a part with the groups that have involved with war crimes and Wethersfield Police, all kinds of falsified police reports, and their roles with overt criminal enterprises and screening them there because they also faked conversations with me at the police report when I at the police department when I was a kid and now as an adult. And these are people that are connected. They confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed. They don't know the extent of it, but in other words, to an extent, they know it's at least plausible that that a Scalora family has roles interstates and next to the World Trade Center with predicate acts with the names at the World Trade Center and at the court next to it that day. And the court itself had roles with switching the dates of things to make them appear late, which was proven after the World Trade Center attack. But it was in that context in the World Trade Center. And WFSB recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, sought me out they're extorting me, have me say nothing. And so they could keep pretending fake conversations with me, with them, and with others. They also have a whole bunch of countries involved with them with this. And the other and WTNH has sources with them planting evidences at corners of streets, not off campuses, with the people further involved. There's one of the teachers confessed, Lance Cuddy, and she's one of the ones with the WTNH, and people next to a Paul Kelly. There were a whole bunch of people tied to a Paul Kelly who are involved with foreign and domestic medical families at Hartford Hospital, all along Route 175 and its conjunctions. There's a Sarah Livermore, who Christopher Cullen recorded, and others. The intelligence community recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and her family involved with Central Connecticut State University since they were kids, involved with medical families, involved all along Route 175 and next to the campuses and on and off them with predicate acts, and with judges, family members, involved with their extended family members all along Route 3, involved with the people with the same houses with the wire crimes, with the police that are refusing to identify themselves, and working with people like their patients and criminals associated with doctors forging names and all kinds of natures of crimes with evidences and lawyers associated with the Judge Killian and the Judge Smith and the other probate court judges. There's a spot of judge family, and there's a Chris White. I don't know him, and he's involved also with a Jennifer Zito, and now she's supposed to be a Jennifer something else. A Jennifer Socia, with a Jeff Socia. I never had a conversation with them in my life. They try to make an exception, a fake exception with a Ray Reynolds, who is increasingly involved with Eric Jensen with state police, families, interstates, and on my street, and where they live, and people associated with them, intercities and interstates, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with people that were at I had one class with him when I was in kindergarten, the first class I had in Wethersfield, and then that school closed. But the houses next to that are also increasingly involved with him with all kinds of people with psychiatry, and then they have alternatives to that where they don't want to drug the kid, they don't want to do it all. They have all kinds of corruption with the difference of that too. See the difference between Judging Freedom with Judge Napolitano or Fox News and his Facebook page. New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page, the Facebook page of Wethersfield Police. They have a Joshua Schumack. He sought me out. I never tried to seek him out in his life. in my life. He's involved with people with all sides of criminal and civil cases. A whole bunch of people with the intelligence community associated with a Mike Pandolf, and I never met his brothers, and I barely had conversation with him. I only know him in context. Every time he had a word with me, it was him and someone else planting evidences. It has something to do with their roles in Washington, D.C., and 2 speech class teachers I had, and people are increasingly involved with home break-ins in the past, and one more recent, which is also involved with Inspector Mike with the Hartford, with the fire department that has been planting evidences roles on all sides of my house, also with the police and people from other countries, and overt criminal people involved with bug sprays, knives, and then playing stupid, because this is an extortion method where a whole bunch of people from Hartford Hospital involved with it, and all the different countries is one of the things they hide behind. So that's one of the things. Route 3 is one of the things. A whole bunch of people next to Trinity College are lying about how and why they know me. In other words, Joe Aiello barely knows me. The only context he knows me in, he was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, increasingly involved with wire crimes with Hartford police, Weathersfield police families, Rock Hill police families, and people involved with home break-ins in my area. And his roles with people pretending to, he never even had a class with me. People from other campuses are spreading lies of people that weren't in my classes when I had classes. And when there are exceptions, every truth they're using and has been used as lies has something to do with their roles with the use /S of the daughter of the principal child abusers campus when I was there. Mr. Murphy is also his daughter had a boyfriend that's involved with some prosecutors and judges and medical families like Leahy. A whole bunch of people, different families associated with the Leahy family, have all kinds of forging names, fake conversations with people, fake ties to people, and all kinds of natures of crimes, roles with all kinds of distinct natures of organized crime, and pretended legitimately per their roles, intercampuses, intercities, and interstates, with identity theft, fraud, slaying, predicate acts with fax methods into databases behind people's backs, and their roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and in the Ninth Circuit Court next to the World Trade Center Tower. And you guys are begging me to get a response for any of that stuff, because it's all connected. Increasingly along the way, there's a Dr. Gilmore that pretended conversations with me. I don't even know what he looks like. I saw no man there associated with. He's associated with a Christina Sioka, who's also involved with people with the name Mendez. A whole bunch of Mendez people as some of the Latino themed, with the KKK black themed police forms on off Fox Connecticut News. Involved also intercities on off Weathersfield Police Department with predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, federal evidences crimes, and with co-defendants, a former director of the F.B.I, Robert Luskin, a Rick Cianfaglione, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed planting evidences next to the state capitol with them. A Chet Casper, and I didn't respond, is not verbally confirmed. And in other words, people have been lying to him about me, and people have been, lying, whatever, make it look like I know him or them. And they have something to do with the intelligence community at Hartford Hospital too. They brought it up. One of the people that and Anthony Yagman also confessed, as his roles recorded when he knows it, after it got proven. He was recorded roles on the social media with the principal child defender. There are people with the computers and teaching digital at Central Connecticut State University, foreign and domestic, and at Trinity College in the Yukon further involved with this. And they have Los Solitos involved with it, and their roles with Afghan leaders and kids, and some body dumping spots and murders. The murder of Greg Collar, even if it was made up, is involved also with a probation officer associated with Mike Oliver. And if they made up that's a federal crime too. But there are F.B.I. and there's a whole bunch of people tied to it with Joseph Lieberman at the time, with the F.B.I. director and the court's family members involved with foreign and domestic military next to Trinity College, next to Century Central Connecticut State University. But those same ones have been rolls with on my street with predicate acts with people from other areas tied to the same house, wire crimes, planting evidence, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and changing what's actually digitally recorded. Weathersfield police have the Schumacher family increasingly involved with all kinds of federal evidences, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with the KKK, Confederate flag themed people at Hartford Hospital that fake conversations with me, refusing me getting help from the medical community too regarding that World Trade Center fake conversations with me and their confessions. I went there the first time they forced me there. This guy walked up to me with a clipboard. I recognized him. I didn't have a word of conversation with him. They're increasingly involved with all kinds of natures of organized crime on my street and names associated with them. And these are the same people when I lived in apartments temporary. They planted evidences there too. And next to those people's houses using the ongoing. They have roles with the intelligence community, with this Kalala family and with the DeMauro family and Iowa family, with next to Central Trinity College and next to Central Connecticut State University, also with the differences of cultures and racketeering natures, worse than war crimes, and pretending to be against it. Middletown has state police families also reported capacity. They're mixed of police forms. There are other police forms. This preaching method, guys, has you have roles with child defenders, leaders, and kids. At the same time, the same ones involved with World Trade Center attacks. No one will follow mandated law. Get me off the fake conversations, WFSB. Fox Connecticut News. These are the same people involved on our Fox Connecticut News and next to you guys with this. All kinds of scams. We'll address how they pretend they're capable of making jobs. They don't know how to speak. A through Z. Blame is to keep the blame on the breaching method, because that's where one of the things that is true always will cause rolls with that. The breaching method itself, for example, and it's one of the things true always that those crazy laws, sickly distinctly in the north and the south, were about non-distinctly too. One thing that those crazy laws and witch trials, even if they were made up, they're about the predicate acts with facts delivery system method that was entrenched. They're about that which measures and maintains role self-value with other communicated for James Madison and for his plan. So how are they going to interpret Marbury versus Madison? Real justice must satisfy all appearances of real justice, black pupils. Here, you'll see no fake difference here. Follow mandated law. Do it for them. Please, Judge Napolitano, do what's right, please. Gee. Campus mercy is cause.